guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you will subscribe and share, especially if you know someone who is suffering from cancer and you think this video might help them, educate them, basically just help them, or encourage them to look for some signs and symptoms of this type of cancer. This type of cancer affected my husband. We found out that he had leukemia October 9th, 2017. So we are almost 2 years into it. And you know, the signs of it were extreme fatigue. You know, he was a paramedic supervisor, and he worked at 2 different stations, so he was constantly working. So he just always put it off as, you know, I'm tired, I have to drive, you know, an hour and a half to one job, an hour to another. I have one day off in between because he worked 24 hours at a time. You know, he didn't show a lot of signs of leukemia, or typical signs like bruising and, you know, bleeding of the gums and that sort of thing. But one day, and he told me, I think I'm going to go to the doctor tomorrow. His fatigue is, I'm going to go to the doctor tomorrow. And you know, our lives was just so busy. We just, you know, the kids went to school, I had to work, he worked 2 jobs. We had everything we could have wanted. Everything. He was 39, by the way, when this happened. He was diagnosed. And he went to the doctor that next morning, and I remember him saying, you know, my appointment's at, like, you know, he called and he's like, my appointment's at 1:30. And I said, okay, well, you know, good luck with that. You know, like, we just joke around and play, and I went on to work, and I didn't think anything of it. I mean, looking back now, I should have drove him, because his doctor was an hour and a half away. He must have been so exhausted to drive. How terrible. So I went to work, and I got a call later that day that his blood count, his total blood count, was 4. And they said, I don't know how you're still alive. You need to go straight to the emergency room. So he went to the emergency room, and I immediately just said, well, I gotta go. And you know, we didn't know anything. they ran all these tests, and these CT scans and all these tests, and they couldn't figure out where's he losing blood. Where is he losing blood? They couldn't find. They couldn't find it. So they said, why don't we just go back? We spend the night in the hospital. And they said, we're going to send you to, and the name escaped me. It's an oncologist, and I don't know why I can't think of it. I'm always joking that I suffer from chemo brain. And so because of my husband, I suffer from it too. And the doctor said it's like an oncologist for blood disorders, blood cancer, blood. My husband knew what it meant because, he was in the medical field, but, I wasn't. So the next day, we came home, and our oncology department here in town, it was amazing. They are an incredible group. Incredible. And they got him in immediately. And they said, well, what we're going to have to do, because we know you're losing blood, but we don't know where. You're not bleeding internally, but you're losing blood. So we need to do a bone marrow biopsy. So he goes back in the room, and I set out with both of our kids. At that time, my daughter was 19 and my son was 17. And, at that time, we just sat and we waited, and the nurse practitioner came out with the doctor and said that he didn't have any marrow. They couldn't pull out marrow from his bone. They had to take a sample of his bone. He didn't even have marrow in his blood, in his bones. He didn't have marrow. And they said, it's definitely cancer, but we can't tell you what kind. We know, we think it's leukemia. We're not 100% positive, but we do think it's leukemia. And, he wasn't, they let us go back there to him, and, his insurance made it to where he had to go to because he was hospital-based also, and his insurance, would make him go to his hospital to receive, any type of further testing or treatment. Well, we're here in Fayetteville at a really excellent oncology department. And, it took 2 different doctors to pull, because the first doctor, that tried to pull the marrow, couldn't pull it. He wasn't getting any. And they tried at a different spot, and, the bone marrow, to do a bone marrow biopsy, they have to drill into your bone. It sounds exactly what it is. They have to get inside that bone. So it's more than a shot, I'll tell you that. And, he went in, and the first doctor he tried, and I think they tried again, and they couldn't find it. So then they called in another doctor who was kind of like an expert at, if you can't pull marrow, he's the one that's going to be able to. And he couldn't. So they took a piece of his bone. And that's when they knew, And soon after that, we was able to go in, and, he woke up, and he was kind of foggy, and he said, they said, well, we're going to do some testing, and he said, I need to have that done back in my hospital. And I said, no, because there's no oncology around the hospital that he works. I said, no, you're having it here. And he didn't know it. And, the doctors and nurses was looking at him like, well, do we listen to him? And they'd look at me, and I'm going, no, we're everything here. We're doing all testing here, all testing. And they would look at me like, do we listen to her? And, that's when I looked at him, and I said, you have cancer. You have cancer. You're 39. You have cancer. All of our testing is done here. He said, okay. So, that's what happened. I'll end this vlog here, and the next one I'll tell you the next step in our treatment of getting rid of this leukemia. So, once again, thanks for watching.